This tree here is hemlock. I believe eastern hemlock to be more specific, but it's a hemlock tree. It's a conifer. It stays green all winter long. And what you'll find growing on this tree is Ganoderma tsugai, or Reishi, a medicinal mushroom. There's not a whole lot of hemlocks around here because they logged them all off way back when. And because the forest changed, the forest really doesn't support this type of tree anymore. But the easiest way to distinguish it from other conifers is it's going to have this really rough bark with these deep grooves that run vertically. And I'll give you a close-up of the leaf. The most likely tree you're going to confuse this with is balsam fir. Okay, so this is the leaf of the hemlock tree. If you look underneath, each individual needle has two white stripes running down the length of it. That's what gives it that white appearance. There's the top. There's the bottom. Now these needles look a lot like balsam fir. If you look at the bark of a hemlock compared to the bark of a balsam fir, they are completely different. So that would be the way to distinguish hemlock. I'll try and back up and give you a wider shot of it. It's a fairly large tree, but it starts out small. This is a young hemlock. The bark on these young ones isn't going to be rough like that old one. But if you're looking for Tinder fungus or reishi, it's the old tree you want to find. Mainly dead trees, and even more so stumps of dead trees where they have logged them off. Now, both the hemlock and the beech tend to grow in what is known as a climax forest or a prime forest. And what that means is you have a forest that is mostly large, mature trees. There will be saplings of young trees, and it's typically a beech maple forest, although you can have I've seen mature ash forests and a variety of others. It all depends on where you live, really, what type of trees you have and the elevation and everything. It changes drastically from here in southern Michigan to even just 100 or 200 miles up north. But you'll tend to find the hemlocks and the beech growing in an area like this. This here is a secondary forest. You have a lot of oak trees. A lot of the cherries have started to die off, and you have a lot of young maples and beech saplings just waiting for the oaks to die so that they can take over the forest. Try something a little different with the camera today. I don't know how well it's going to work. feel weird having the camera pointed right at me. Nice little backdrop. Secondary forest, really what I find the most of is cherry and oak. I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but if you want to be serious about mushroom hunting, or well, I think just anything outdoors, if you want to utilize the resources that are in the outdoors, it'd be a good idea to get a good understanding of forest succession, plant succession, how an area goes from a grassland up to a mature climax forest, because all the mushrooms and game, wild game and stuff, plants, they all grow in different stages of that forest development. And if you have a good understanding of those stages of succession, you'll have a lot easier time hitting the woods and getting right to a resource without spinning your wheels and just walking around in circles. Another conifer that you might confuse hemlock with is white pine, but the bark of white pine is generally not nearly as rough and fissured as hemlock, and the needles of white pine are entirely different. White pine has long needles that come in pairs of 2, and as you can see, I mean, the hemlock and the balsam fir look completely different than that. So there should be no mistaking white pine for hemlock. I guess I should mention Ganoderma lucidum. You can find it growing on elm, that's where I find it growing. But it can also be found on just about any deciduous tree. Any tree that sheds its leaves in the fall. Maple is one that I've heard it grows on. I haven't found it growing on maple myself, so I didn't show it, but it does grow on maple. And but like I said, elm, American elm, is the tree that I find Ling Chi or Ganoderma lucidum growing on. Aspen, poplar,